Welcome to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. You guys ready to do some more Chessercising? I am too. Listen, the idea of Chessercises is to get us to see familiar patterns. And as we see these familiar patterns occur again and again and again, we learn how to put them into play ourselves. The grandmasters knew what worked and they kept repeating it. So there may be some repeats to my information in these Chessercises. This is to burn it in our brains. This is a game I recently played. I do the queen pawn opening. This is a most instructional chess game. I side with Jeremy Silman, the international chess master, who said in his 4th edition, I finished his Amateur's Mind earlier this year, and I just recently finished this last week his Reassess Your Chess 3rd edition, and now I'm going through his Reassess Your Chess 4th edition. And he says that every chess game is instructive. He said there isn't a chess game. He uses chess games from the internet. He uses them from beginners to grandmasters. He uses them from just yesterday all the way as far back as 1700s. Because the idea is chess can teach us about how to better ourselves through either the mistakes or the good things. In this game that I played, my opponent was 1390. Now that's not a grand rating, but this isn't Grandmaster chess. This is Chessercise chess. I'm going to think out loud with you about what I'm thinking, and by using Jeremy Silman's imbalances technique, I'm going to show you that we, you and me, the lesser mortals, we can do this. We can make this work for ourselves. You can see my opponent is coming at the center. Now, do I want to necessarily exchange at this point? No, I do not. So I've strengthened my center, and he comes up with the C5 push. In this game, what excited me the most about this game, hitting the center and hitting this E5, is I actually found a way to create a weakness and exploit it. Pushing the pawn from here to here makes the dark square complexes around the king on the king's side, it makes those weak. So he has produced weaknesses, right? But he's going to fill those weaknesses in a gap with his bishop. I brought my bishop up to the center, giving myself a diagonal toward the king's side. He brought his other knight out, which is a nice way to go. I castled. It's always a good idea to castle early if you can. Most everyone teaches that, and it's a good teaching. He is bringing his knight into a foray. Now, here is where I begin to pay attention very carefully. This is his second knight move. Now, in general, he's going for my bishop. I mean, that's obvious, right? This is interesting to me that he's choosing this strategy because I have seen this because of his move. I don't mind him taking that bishop if he'll give me that knight, because the center is getting to the point to where we can lock it up, right? On the other hand, I want to grab a potential open file. I'm trying to look ahead. Rooks belong on open files so that they can get to the 7th rank and 8th rank of the opponent. I'm thinking that if I advance this pawn, eventually, it will be traded and I will have an open file. So I'm trying to think ahead. I'm trying to bring in a full development, as full as I know how to anyway. And sure enough, his 3rd knight move, he takes my bishop. Which is not bothersome to me, because I can simply take his knight with the queen. Now, my queen is well centralized. Give support to my central pawns, which are, we're fighting, we're in an argument here, aren't we? Here's what I'm thinking. Now watch what my opponent starts doing. He wants to keep tension in the center, but he's opening up a little bit on the queen side. He gives his bishop an avenue to come out because it's virtually a dead end at this point. So he has an option to bring his bishop out, fianchetto his bishop, even though at this point there's no long central file. This is okay. It's not going to hurt him. I follow suit. I feel it's perfectly safe and legitimate to open up my bishop because essentially this is almost a symmetrical formation. You know, I'm opening up an option and a possibility. He finally fianchettos his bishop here. It's also a protector of the king. When the king is castled, he covers those dark squares, right? I went ahead and put my bishop on a3, hitting this pawn, right? He brings his queen up. You can see this is getting very tense. Let's take a look at this point. Once he brought his queen up, I said, okay, time out. Chessercise. Analyze the board, Carrie. Take your time. Chessercise. This is a great way to exercise your chess thinking. When we look at black's position, I don't see any weaknesses. There's quite a bit of tension on the queen side, and there is thrusts on the queen side. I think I have a better potential of going up the center than he does because I have the two knights and he has the two bishops. That's another imbalance, right? You'll want to check what your pieces are. With the knights, there's no guesswork here. There's no maybe. I have the two knights. I want the center coagulated, as it were. I want pawns in the center. I want locked pawns. This favors knights because I can jump over pieces, right? This bishop can't move. He can't even influence anything this direction because of that knight. I see such a good board here. His position is so good. Because I've been Chessercising videos with you, I realize I don't have any targets. If there are no targets, I have to create them. Whether it's a weak square somewhere, or a weak piece somewhere, or a weak pawn somewhere, I can create a target. We have that power. But I don't see any. Before I go on that kind of an expedition, observe. The queen is pointing toward my king side here, right? All he has to do is push a pawn, just one pawn, and his bishop is pointing toward my king side, right? And then he would occupy me in the center with all kinds of shenanigans, and he would free his bishop, he would free his queen, and his knight can jump on the king side really fast. To help me take care of that, I push the pawn. What this pawn move does is it limits his bishop. If he ever frees it with a pawn move in the center, it limits how far his bishop can go. He can only go to here. It also limits this knight. Well, my opponent goes ahead and castles. I see a potential target. I see a potential way to create a weakness, and this is getting me very excited. This pawn I have attacked once, twice. I can make it 3 times pushing the pawn, right? He's got it guarded once, twice, but the second guardian is the queen. In my opinion, guarding this or attacking this with a pawn and a bishop is superior to a pawn and a queen because the queen can't always make the exchange. So with my knight, I pull it to a4 and hit this pawn again with a minor piece. I have a knight, I have a bishop, and I have a pawn attacking that pawn. I'm going to create a weakness on the queen side. I'm going to open up a file for myself by getting rid of some pawns. All he's got guarding it is one pawn and a queen, and the queen is not going to swap. Right? A queen is vastly more powerful than either a bishop or a knight. Right? So I am in the process of creating a weakness by attacking the same square more than once, as many times as possible. Watch what he does. Pawn, and that's the pawn he chooses to take, putting the question to my queen. I go ahead and return fire and take the pawn with my pawn. So I swap the pawn. Now, I admit this isn't grandmaster play. It's not supposed to be. I'm not near a grandmaster. Neither is my opponent. It is still nevertheless instructive that I have a target. I have selected this target, and I am focusing on this target. This is a fabulous technique, one you need to put in your repertoire. My opponent pushes the a pawn 5. I think that's an error. I truly do. That's wrong. He just handed me the victory, in my opinion. And I knew it when he made the move. I said, oh yes. Now, this is in the importance of chessercising. It's going to teach us to stay flexible. This is my target. But not now. No way, not now. Do you see what his pawn move did? He's gaining space. He's trying to do what is supposed to be done. Look, I basically got the center, and I've got better potential in the center for advancing than he does. I have a bigger pawn center, so my area of the board is going to be the center, right? There's no guesswork with that. Well, the king side is probably virtually even. He's coming on the queen side. He's going to build more space that'll give him more maneuverability. But look what he did. Look at that backward pawn on b6. That is the new weakness. Look at this hole that I have on b5 to put one of my pieces. And it's going to be an outpost, and it's going to be permanent, because both of his pawns are now past the squares of influence to chase away one of my pieces. Remember that video about chess holes? Bingo. Because I've been chessercising with you guys and sharing my chessercises in this game when it counts, I automatically see that and I'm going, yes, yes, yes. The rook. Put the rook on b1. Grab the open file, the partial open file. Where do rooks belong? Open files. Where do they want to go? 7th rank. I am now hitting the new weakness once, twice. Nice. Hey, once, twice. Hey, that's nice. All right, yeah, no shirt spear tonight. We're not doing shirt spear. We're doing chessercise. My opponent brings his rook over, b8. He's going to defend the weakness. Do you notice something interesting? Queen, 1 defender. Rook, 2nd defender. Knight, 1 offender. Rook, 2nd offender. Do you notice that my opponent is beginning to react to me because I initiated the weakness? And now he has the weakness? And once you make a weakness, you attack it, and the opponent has to respond? I need you to be aware of this. Now, Silman mentions this a lot, and it's in the Grandmaster Chess. The way chess works is the rest of this game is going to revolve around this weakness. And if I can get that weakness, I'm going to win. Isn't that weird? I mean, seriously, think of it. He's got a whole setup over here, you know. He's still got pieces and pawns and all that. What do you mean the game's going to be over? I'm going to win if I can get that pawn. That's how a weakness works. That's why it's so critical. Learn how to make weaknesses and then put your entire energy into getting those weaknesses, and you win the game. This is remarkable. I didn't invent this. That's how chess works. Once you understand this is how the grandmasters think, we're going to Chessercise through thousands of these games like this, and then I'm going to show you that this stuff works. Yes. Yes. So we're going to keep Chessercising. I have created a weakness. He's defending it. I don't want him to get rid of the weakness. Right? Okay, I created the weakness. Now is it time to go attack the king? No. No. Not on your life. He can get rid of the weakness by advancing the pawn, right? It's a backward pawn, but there's nothing stopping it from doing this. And then he eliminates the weakness, right? Not on your life. No, no, no. I'm going to stuff a piece in that gorgeous outpost of mine, and I'm going to force him to be saddled with a weakness, and he has to defend that pawn, and I get to attack it. Isn't that interesting? The whole game revolves around this. You watch. Do you notice? I am initiating the movement. He is reacting to it. I have the initiative here. And the reason I'm emphasizing it, Silman says the initiative is one of the toughest concepts for amateurs, we lesser mortals, to fathom. So because things have gotten really hairy, he moves his queen to here. He's apparently trying to protect his weakness that I've got hit here and here, right? So what am I going to do? At this point, I bring in the extra force. I bring my other rook over to the open file. I double my rooks. I hit the weakness again and again and again. I hit this weakness again and again and again and again. I have it backed up with a queen all over the place here. This is power. Put those rooks on open files, connect them, and march them at the weakness. This is one of the great teachings, I believe, of Jeremy Silman, as he's found them in so many grandmaster games. Chessercise. I want you to say that out loud to yourself or inside yourself during a game in a tournament. You can't talk out loud. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Chessercise. Analyze the board. Analyze the pieces. See where you can create weaknesses. Make those weaknesses, then attack those weaknesses. We are going to Chessercise. I have him so overwhelmed with hitting him with so many ways that he's going to try to relieve the pressure. He takes the pawn here, trying to gain more space. That pawn was dead anyway. 4-2. I won that pawn, right? Because I've created weaknesses and attacked weaknesses, and he is responding to me, I have the initiative. He's responding to me. He created another weakness. I now win the exchange. Fabulous. Things work when you create a weakness and attack it. He continues taking the pawn. Now he's marching down toward this pawn. I can exchange the bishops here. On the other hand, I don't want him prying my king open, right? So I go ahead and conservatively take his pawn because watch what this does for me. My queen is hitting the weakness. My rook is hitting the weakness. My rook is hitting the weakness. My knight is hitting the weakness. 4 powers. 4. He's only got it protected twice. That pawn's going to fall too. The wildly interesting thing about all this is because those weaknesses fall, it completely scatters him to the 4 wind. His position falls apart. He loses because I got the weakness. It's weird how it works in chess that way, but that's how it works. It happens in all the Grandmaster games. I brought in my entire army, and I'm utilizing my entire army, right? He hasn't used this bishop yet, right? You've seen that? It's an entire army effort. I cannot overemphasize this. Silman says it time and again. It's a whole group effort. I can, at this point, break through. I'm going to win this game. At this point, I know I'm going to win the game. It's just how it happens. When you shatter the weaknesses, the army falls apart. And you can sweep up and mop up. But it's a team effort. Emphasize this. Chessercise. Teamwork. Chessercise. Teamwork. Every piece. So I bring every piece to bear. Now I had a choice, here or here. The reason I chose this, one, it blocks his pawn. His knight is stopping this pawn, and the knight hits this pawn near the king. That's a weak pawn. So is this one. To keep my open file. Right? I mean, oh baby. I've got that file. Well, I want to keep my option open for that file. I just won the exchange. He only has 1 rook. I have 2. I'm gonna win. I created a weakness. I pursued the weakness. Now I'm attacking his queen, and he drops his little lady back even further out of the game. I'm gaining in strength. You notice my mobility is moving toward him. I have the initiative. I'm calling the shots. He is responding to me. Why stop? Take the weakness. He does a pretty good move. He's trying very hard to stop my forward momentum here. He puts himself between my rook's connection, right? So this is a pretty good move. How do you respond to that? I want my rooks connected. That's what gives me my battering rams. Those rooks are battering rams. You're going to just bust through his position. So get rid of the bishop. Push the pawn. I want those rooks connected, not separated. And he drops his bishop back. Now, that's the battering rams I want, right? Continue with my forward momentum. Continue with my initiative. Now take the bishop. That exposes my battering ram to his rook. I own that file. Mine, all mine. Absolutely. So he takes it with his rook, giving me the file. Yes, things are going just right. Now, Chessercise. Things have changed, right? The board has changed a little bit. Notice how it's starting to open up. There's not near as much conglomeration. I'm somewhat scattered, you know. He is somewhat scattered. He's congregated here. These guys are going to be overwhelmed. They cannot compete with what I've got right now, right? So, it's going to be easier for me to get rid of the queens at this point. I don't want the queens anymore. I'm up the exchange, man. I have the 2 rooks. I have a great centralized knight here coming toward the king. I want to get rid of the ladies. I'm up the exchange. So he did swap. I like that. Now I have a much clearer picture of how to proceed. Do you see? Right? Now he's going to bring his other piece and take a pawn. He took one of my weaknesses. I had a weak pawn and it cost him his life. Poor little brat. Now what do? Rooks belong in open files. Rooks want to expand to the 7th and 8th ranks. Right? So put him on the 7th. Don't think about it. Do what the grandmasters do. Chessercise. Now what's he doing? He is coming forward and attacking my weakness. That knight is not supported. Now, rather than do a passive move here, rather than move him out of the way, and yeah, I threatened the rook for a move, but I lose the protection of the pawn and he's going to take the pawn. Right? That's a passive move. I don't need to do that. I don't need to be passive. I don't need to put him up here and exchange knights. I can, but why? I have him right where I want him. There's no reason to lose that knight, so push the pawn. Develop the outpost, right? Well, my opponent's not going to go for that. He's going to threaten the outpost. And I'm going to support the outpost. I don't want to move that knight. I'm hitting a weak pawn here, 1, and I'm hitting him on the 7th rank 2. I can get to the king if I keep that knight there. I also protect my pawn, right? Keep a cohesiveness together, right? Well, he brings his knight out. He needs to start doing something. He sees, uh-oh, this is pretty doggone serious. Well, I want to keep going. I want to control the game. I want to keep the initiative. Check. Put the king in check. King has to move. King moves up 1. What do you do now? Bring the other battering ram to the 7th rank. I own the 7th and 8th ranks. Well, unfortunately, Carrie, you gave him a pawn. You should have moved your king. No. No, I should not have. Don't be distracted by the little circus counterplay he wants to do. Now what do? Come after his knight? No. I want to keep the initiative. I don't care at this point about that knight. He's trying to get counterplay. He's got nothing. Why should I fiddle around chasing that knight and let his bishop start coming into the game, or somehow his rook come into the game? No. Go for it. Check. Keep the pressure on. I'm dictating the shots. Make him react to me. Right? King comes over to here. I go, hot dog, summer in the city. Knight down to go check again. The king dodges over. The rook comes up, check again. Look at the beautiful coordination between a rook and a knight against a king. Ha! It's nice to have another rook here as a backup, right? So the king comes down to here. What do? Keep the initiative. Bring the rook down. Check again. I'm driving him to the corner. He's being obnoxious. He doesn't want to go to the corner. I can't come down and go check. I'll lose the rook, right? But I don't have to. Chessercise. Chessercise. Look at the board. I've got this knight. Bring him up and go check to the king. The king has only 1 square to go to. I've got this 7th rank controlled. I've got that square controlled. All I have to do is go checkmate. Look how scattered his pieces are. I came here and I wiped out that weakness that I created, and scattered to the four winds while I was organized with my battering ram to the 7th and 8th ranks, and then I moved over in conjunction with my extra piece. That is how the grandmasters do it. They observe the board. If they can't find weaknesses, make them. Once you make a weakness, you use your entire army to attack it, and he falls apart and you win. Isn't that fascinating to see that? Well, it's not all that advanced, is it? If you see that your opponent is in great shape, go clobber him, knock one of his front teeth out or something. Give him a weakness, you know. Break his arm. That way he can't fight you anymore. When I was studying Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee, he said, hey, if your opponent's fighting you and he's not going to stop, break his bones. If he comes after you to break your bones, then kill him. If he's going to try to kill you, hurt him, make him have a weakness. Bruce would practice a punch 1,000 times a day. 1,000 times a day, each hand. We're going to Chessercise through thousands of games. We're going to make it so that it's just automatic habit. Just, it's automatic. Oh, rooks. Oh, hey, there's an open file. That's where I'm going to put my rook, on the open file. Right? Oh, there's an outpost. That's where I'm going to put my knight, on the outpost. It's automatic. That's why we practice Chessercising. So thanks, I've lectured enough. This was a fun game for me. I Chessercised. The board situation changed, and I had to adjust to it. The new weakness appeared, and I focused on it instead. A hole appeared, and I immediately took hold of that hole. Right. That's right. That's how to do it. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Chess videos. And happy Chessercising. Forget about checkmating. That's not the only way to win. That is a way to win. But Chessercise. And I will see you guys in the next video.